I'm Noelle Harrison, and how did I get involved in this movement? So in short, first, I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, and then a wife. I'm a mom to an almost 20-year-old daughter. She'll be 20 next week. I'm a foster mom to a 5-year-old boy named Jacob, and a little baby girl, 6 months old, named Jerani. That's my husband, and that's my daughter. We live in Mahopac. And I'm a pro-life sidewalk counselor and an orphan care coordinator for a pro-life, pro-women organization named Love Life. I'm an active member at Reach Church in White Plains, where I lead Bible studies throughout the year and hold position as their Love Life representative. And I also work as the animation teacher at PNW BOCES. I grew up in a little middle to upper class neighborhood in Long Island with my single mom and 4 siblings. I was a baby of 5. My dad left when I was about 2, and although we didn't have much, my mother always somehow found a way to provide for us, and most importantly, she made us feel loved and valued. My mom was actually adopted because my grandmother in her youth thought she was unable to get pregnant. She ended up adopting my mom and then later another baby boy, my uncle, and then years later she found herself naturally pregnant with my aunt. I always admired not only the decision of my grandparents to adopt, but also the decision of my mother's young birth mom, the decision she made to give up my mom to be adopted by a loving family that desired a child. When I was in high school, my US history teacher had us choose a hot topic to debate with another student. At that point in my life, I knew nothing about politics. I had no idea the difference between a Republican, a Democrat, a conservative, or a Demo-rat, I would say. I just knew that killing was wrong, and that included the most vulnerable, innocent persons that don't have a voice to defend themselves. That's the preborn. I did my research, I gathered my facts, I even left my faith-based perspective aside because I was in public school. And well, long story short, I destroyed my liberal opponent's argument, hopefully changed the minds of some of my pro-choice classmates, and I got an A on that assignment. After high school, I went on to pursue a career in graphic design, so I studied at the Fashion Institute of Technology and later received my master's degree at NYU. I know, who would have thought a Christian, pro-life conservative would evolve from those institutions, and things actually weren't as bad as they are today, though, back then. Times have definitely changed. Immorality and perversion have consumed all aspects of our society now. Although I did finish by the grace of God in my 3rd year of college at the age of 20, I did find myself pregnant with my boyfriend, who I was sure loved me and would support my decision to choose life. Besides my mom, I actually had only one friend who encouraged me and agreed on my decision. Most believe it would be much easier for me to finish college and pursue my dreams if I just got rid of the problem. We live in a world that worships and comforts self, and although I knew the road ahead would not be easy, I understood that my actions got me into the situation where I was, and an innocent life was now growing inside of me. The next few years are very messy and too difficult to get into right now, but praise God, He carried me through, had mercy on me, and blessed me with a beautiful daughter who has brought me an indescribable joy, even through the worst and most painful times. That's it. So, can we move on to the next slide, please? So I just want to tell you a little bit about Love Life. The whole presentation isn't about Love Life, but this is a big part of a really important organization that does a lot, not just for saving babies, but for helping women and for providing hope for people that feel like they're in hopeless situations. You know, when they show up at the abortion clinic, most of them aren't there because they want to be. I mean, some people they just use abortion as birth control, but you know, there are many women that we need to connect with that don't really want to be there. However they got there, they feel hopeless. They have no one to stand with them. Most women show up by themselves, not with the man, or they're dropped off and the car is sitting there with the music blasting, or they come back an hour later smoking a joint. So there's a lot of, everybody's at a different situation. So Love Life is an organization that just not only helps to save babies, but to help the mom choose life, gives them real, tangible things they need that they're going to need for their baby. We help with financial needs. We help with baby items. We throw baby showers. We provide a mentor if the woman chooses to need a mentor. A lot of women don't know how to raise a baby. They never had a mother that took care of them. So Love Life is they hook up with the mom and they provide anything they need, and then also they stay with the mom at least 2 years after the baby's born. Even more, we have babies that have been born from saved from the abortion clinic, the murder mill, and then they were they were flower girls in some of our counselors' weddings. So we do connect and we stay with them throughout all their the pregnancy and even after. So my pro-life service began with Love Life volunteers. When the Love Life volunteers came to my church and a few pastors from North Carolina, that's where Love Life started in North Carolina, and to share about the organization and all the babies that were being saved and the pregnant moms that were being helped and mentored. I knew the Lord was speaking to my heart and I had to get involved. Since 2019, the start of Love Life in New York City, that's when New York City Love Life started, I've been a volunteer on the sidewalk outreach team outside the busiest abortion clinic in New York City. That's the Planned Parenthood on Bleecker Street in Mott. It's previously named the Margaret Sanger Health Clinic. So just a little bit about Love Life. You can go to the next slide. So their mission, like I was mentioning, Love Life is uniting and mobilizing the church to create a culture of love and life that'll bring an end to the abortion and the orphan crisis. So their mission is to get the churches involved. We have so many churches that should really be the epicenter for people to go to when they're in trouble. There shouldn't be judgment. There should be help for women that need help. So we have a lot of pastors. We have a huge problem in our nation. Pastors and priests don't want to speak about abortion. They think it's too political, and they think it's not a topic that should be spoken, and they only share it. It doesn't involve the gospel, which is completely false. God says we shall not murder. God says that we are all made in his image. We're made in the image of God. God says that he hates the shedding of innocent blood. So pastors and priests should be speaking out of the pulpit and sharing to women that you can come here. If you do find yourself pregnant, we will support you. We will help you. There is forgiveness. If you repent of any sin, God is willing to forgive you. And churches should come alongside anybody that needs help, the sick, the poor, the needy, and the people that find themselves in difficult situations. So Love Life is all about mobilizing the churches to get active, speaking about abortion, and also making their churches called houses of refuge. So churches can hook up with Love Life, become a house of refuge, and make an announcement to their congregation saying, we are a house of refuge. If you or anybody you know, doesn't matter what religion, race, whatever you are, find yourself pregnant, you can come here. It can be confidential. Whatever you need, we'll help you with, and we'll mentor you. And of course, the main point is to disciple them to be followers of Jesus Christ and to get real discipleship and learn the gospel and learn how much they're loved, so then they have more value and they don't find themselves back at the abortion clinic the next year or whatever. So it's mobilizing the churches to become active. So there's a political aspect of Love Life, but there's also a church aspect to get people into the gospel, and also to have pastors and priests really speak out about the subject so their congregations feel comfortable coming when they do find themselves in any kind of situation. 4 out of 10 women were attending a church once a month at the time of their first abortion. That's a survey done by CareNet and Lifeway. And then 5 out of 10 men were attending a church once a month at the time of their first abortion as well. So that means that 54% of women having abortions actually identify as Christians. I only bring that up is because, people think like, oh, if you had an abortion, you're probably this horrible person that's never been to church, or you're an atheist or whatever. But it's not always true. Everybody messes up. Sometimes I messed up when I was 20 years old, but you need God is there for you. He's there to forgive you. And the church should walk alongside with you. Okay, next slide. There's lots of things with Love Life you can get involved with. There's the sidewalk outreach team, which are people that stand outside Planned Parenthood or other abortion clinics and approach women with the resources. So I actually have some resources here too, if you guys want to take a look later. This is what I hand out to a woman. Hope is here. It has all information about their child in their womb, different stages of development, what is the truth about abortion, all the actual procedures that they might be about to get. Tells you it says Hope is here for you. So we have pregnancy care center links. We have all our information, and then some scriptures about the sanctity of life. And there's a lot of things. So it says in detail about all those procedures and what's going to happen to them, and what Planned Parenthood doesn't tell you, because they just tell you that it's a clump of cells and that it's going to be over soon, and then your problem will be solved. They don't talk about the after effects and all the damage that could come after an abortion, physically and mentally and emotionally. This is our sidewalk counseling team outside Planned Parenthood. So this is the New York City Planned Parenthood, which used to be the Margaret Sanger Center, which we'll get into later. That's a bunch of our counselors. You can see we have male and female counselors, because a lot of times people come with their boyfriends. So then when the woman goes in, the male will try to talk to the man outside the clinic. try to get them to tell them about the value of their baby. They're already a dad. That's a person inside their girlfriend or wife's belly. I mean, believe it or not, there are wives that come. Okay, next slide. So while we're out there, this is where the fun starts. We do have protesters. So we know it's New York City, it's downtown, it's literally hell. It's you feel the evil in the air when you're there. It's the most disgusting area. So usually the first Saturday of the month, the pro-aborts, there's a New York City pro-abortion organization that hates us, and they come out and they protest the first Saturday of the month when we're there. We go out Saturday mornings typically as our big day. So these are pro-abortion protesters. They're blocking our group of pro-life prayer walkers across the street from Planned Parenthood. So these are some people praying in the back, you could see. Then they come with their umbrellas, with their signs, and they can get pretty aggressive. We've had some instances that got out of control. Usually there's police. The police know when they're going to be there, so they'll show up and try to supervise a little bit. But just to show the evil, really, that this whole industry is about, and it's just so wicked, and the people are so deceived. The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, Satan. And he has deceived the minds of so many to think that these people actually think that they're doing something good. They think that they're standing for some cause, but they're so delusioned that what they're doing is so wicked, and even their violence of pushing and shoving and screaming. And if a woman chooses life, they're not happy about that. They're like, kill your baby, what are you doing? Don't listen to them. Love life. Obviously, we all want politicians and legislation that's going to be pro-life, but we also know that the churches really have to be involved. The church will end abortion when people's minds are changed, when people actually see abortion for what it is, and abortion becomes unthinkable. Right now, abortion is so acceptable; it's just a normal thing. It's promoted in almost elementary school now, with all this Planned Parenthood putting their curriculum in schools, and the grooming is now starting in kindergarten. They're putting sexual education programs sponsored by Planned Parenthood in the grammar schools because, what do you think? They're grooming them to get on birth control, or then to maybe mess up their birth control, get pregnant, and then become clients for Planned Parenthood. So it's all starting from the beginning, young, teaching them about sex, teaching them about masturbation. We all know what's going on in the public schools. Putting these horrible books in and exposing them and desensitizing them to perversion so that they end up at these clinics. It's a multi-billion-dollar business. So they'll do whatever they can to get clients for the future and keep their money high. So the church and politicians obviously have to work together, but the church is a big part about just speaking about the issue, and then a lot more people will be aware. Okay, next slide. These are just this is the last one about love life. These are some highlights just to show what can happen when the church does get involved and when people start being active and put their faith in action. Some highlights just from the past 6 years, and these numbers have actually increased because this slide is about 6 months old, I think. 4,500 babies have been saved. Up to 70% drop in abortions on Wednesdays and Saturdays. That's because Wednesdays is a day of prayer. We pray on Wednesdays. We either pray or fast, or just pray, or fast one meal, or fast the whole day. So the power of prayer is very strong. So we pray on Wednesdays for the Saturdays, because on Saturdays we go out, we do the prayer walks, and then we counsel outside. So we've seen, believe it or not, a 70% drop in abortions on Wednesdays and Saturdays. 140,000 people prayer walked in the past 6 years. We have 800 partnering churches. 45 or more abortion workers felt compelled to leave the industry. So another thing we do when we're out there is we minister. We know who the people that work there are. So we minister to them when they're going in, when they're coming out. We try to talk to them, and we actually see a lot of people leave the industry and tell us that they got new jobs, or we even have helped people get new jobs. Because there's nurses, think of all the people that are involved in Planned Parenthood. There's the security guards outside. There are the people, the nurses, the people, the escorts outside, in the pink jackets that escort the women in to murder their babies. There's even the garbage guys, because aborted babies is medical waste. They literally put them in jars, all the medical waste, and they got to get rid of it somehow, and the baby parts. So the medical waste company comes in the truck, medical waste truck, and he comes out. He's just a regular guy. Comes out with his little thing, and then he comes out with boxes, and we tell them, do you know what's in those boxes? And a lot of times they don't. They have no idea. We say, those are all aborted babies. Those are little people in there. And sometimes they're like, well, it's just my job. And other times it really does, it pricks their heart. So you got to speak out and tell people what's really going on. You know, it's not just a clump of cells that just disappears when you walk in and walk out. You know, that's a human being that you just murdered. 3,500 more people connected beyond prayer walks. So sometimes people will come on a prayer walk for the first time, and then they want to get more involved. So they become either a counselor, or they become regular prayer walkers. They do other things with Love Life. You can become a mentor, a volunteer, orphan care, or a sidewalk outreach team member. So that's how actually I got involved with orphan care. Once I got hooked up with Love Life as a sidewalk counselor, I got they had meetings about orphan care, so I learned about being a foster parent, and I prayed about it. I wasn't really ready to do it yet, and then after a year after I went on the Zoom call about the foster care, I was like, you know what, let's just get certified. I'm not ready to get a foster child now, but let's just get certified. So we got certified, and then about a year later, we finally got some kids in our home. So praise God, He knows the right timing for everything. So just got to trust in the Lord and just do what He's calling you to do, even if it's scary. This is the most important year yet for the pro-life movement, because last summer, the Supreme Court announced its decision on Dobbs versus Jackson and that overturned Roe v. Wade. After almost 50 years of debate, the national mood is shifting, and people understand more than ever that abortion is not a solution and that we could do better. Next slide. So why be pro-life? So 63,459,781 American lives have been lost to abortion since 1973. The asterisk is because that number is constantly increasing. So it's always changing. It's always got to be updated. So the United Nations describes them as universal and inalienable rights that are inherent to every person. In other words, all human beings have human rights, and we possess them by virtue of our humanity and not because they are granted to us by government or other people. The most foundational human right is the right to life. If we don't have the right to life, we don't have a right to anything, right? The United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, the UN's Universal Declaration of Human Rights, highlights this in Article 3. Everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person. And in Article 6, it says everyone has the right to recognition everywhere as a person before the law. Even our Declaration of Independence, right, states that all men are created equal and that they are endowed by their Creator and certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If we hold to the validity of these statements, and if preborn children are human beings, then we would have to conclude that the youngest among us have the same inalienable rights to life as those who are born. Next slide, please. So this is the video that I was going to show you. We'll save it to the end just so we don't mess up anything, because it's not projecting on the screen. So, but anyway, this is a video. It's amazing. So if you can even go on YouTube on your free time and look at it. But it's Live Action, which is the shirt I'm wearing, says women's rights begin in the womb. It's another pro-life, pro-women organization. I don't know if anybody's heard about it, but they're very big on doing undercover investigations on Planned Parenthood and catching them in their little schemes and their lies, and how they want to make money to buy their Lamborghini, and how many baby parts they're selling, and all the illegal things they're doing with selling baby organs, and even doing killing babies after they're born. So there's tons of stuff that Live Action has caught, and they're in a lot of legal issues because of it, but they also they have a great website that kind of debunks all of the pro-choice narrative and everything. It's really scientific stuff. They have everything. So this was a really cool, and I like it because I'm a 3D animation teacher, but it's a 3D rendition animation of a baby from the moment of conception to live birth, and it's really beautiful. So we could try to watch it later on. Next slide, please. So some fast facts about abortion. Babies are human. So yes, I come from a gospel Christian perspective. I believe in the Bible, but I also believe in science, and I'm not a science denier. And science says that science has developed dramatically, first of all, since Roe v. Wade in 1973, and we now know more about the development of each human being from fertilization to birth than ever before. So when does life begin? So we know that at the moment of fertilization, the entire genetic makeup of a unique human being is formed. This includes the sex, the eye color, and other traits. The difference between someone at fertilization, 4 months in utero, 2 years old, 17, 35, 80 years old, is development aided by nutrition and time, right? It's really just time and growth. A baby's heart beats at about 54 million times between conception and birth. By 22 days after fertilization, a baby's heart starts beating. And some people say even earlier than that. Now that science is even advancing and say it's even earlier than 22 days. The baby's average heart rate is 110 beats per minute. This will rise to 159 by 8 weeks gestation. Preborn baby starts moving and develops their first sense of touch by 6 weeks after conception. A baby will respond to light touch on her lips and cheeks by reflexively moving away, or he will move away when the umbilical cord or the wall of the uterus touches him in the womb. Next slide. Continue. So during the first 8 weeks of development, more than 90% of the baby's body parts have formed. So it's only 8 weeks and they're almost completely formed already. A baby can bend her elbows and bring her hands together. At 13 weeks after conception, evidence points to a preborn baby being able to experience pain. So just think about when they're being ripped to pieces, the pain that they are feeling. The youngest premature babies to survive have been born in the 19th week after conception. That's 21 weeks gestation. As hospitals invest in life-saving technologies to save their smallest, most miraculous patients, the age of viability gets younger and younger, bringing joy and hope to many families. So many times we had people come to the clinic and say, "Oh, my baby's, it's gonna die," and they're past that. You know, there are ways to protect and save your baby at a very young age, but Planned Parenthood won't tell you that. It's all about the money. They want that baby because they want the money. So they will never, ever direct you to go to another doctor. We have pro-life doctors on call that we can call to even get them on the phone with the woman if there is some kind of medical complication that she's worried about and was told that her baby's not going to live. But yeah, babies are born. I'm sure you've all heard stories about babies being born like 21 weeks and they actually end up being normal or have some kind of small issues they have to deal with, but I mean, they're alive and they're striving and their parents are praising God because they're alive. Because those babies are wanted. You know, babies that are not wanted, it's a different story. Okay, next slide. So now we get to the woman. Abortion hurts women, so it's not all fine and dandy after an abortion is finished. A lot of women suffer from a lot of torment, regret, even physical problems that have damaged them for the rest of their lives. So the real hypocrisy comes from an abortion industry masquerading as women's health care. So there's nothing health care about Planned Parenthood. Yes, they do STD drugs and testing. Obama stood up years ago and said they do mammograms. That is not true. They do not do mammograms. Planned Parenthood in New York does hormone therapy. There's that. That's health, I guess. And then they give out birth control. So, but their main bulk is abortion. And just so you know, the abortion pill is used over 50% of the time now for abortions. So that's dispensed like Tylenol. It's just, and you know when they're coming out, they have a little paper bag, and usually they give them one inside because it's a 2-day process. And we always give them, we have information. It is reversible. So if you did take the first pill, which is mifepristone, and it stops your body from producing progesterone, which is the food for your baby. So it starves your baby to death. And then the next pill you take will expel the baby out into your toilet bowl. And they say it's just a clump of cells, but then women come back and they're like, no, I saw my baby. It had fingers. You could see your baby in blood. And they're traumatized. And they say, well, what do I do? And they say, flush it down the toilet. So it's not, and it's extremely painful process. Like I'm sorry to be graphic, but you're expelling a child out with tons of blood, and it's not healthcare, put it that way. And it's not pleasure, and it's not easy, and the woman is not going to be okay after that. Okay, next slide. So many women are pressured into unwanted abortions. According to the Lozier Institute peer-reviewed study published in the Curious Medical Journal, over 60% of women who had abortions report high levels of pressure to abort from one or more sources, and those same women report higher levels of subsequent mental health and quality of life issues. Abortion carries undisputed risks of immediate medical complications. They include blood clots, hemorrhage, incomplete abortions, infection. Incomplete abortions, just so you know, is when they don't get everything out, and then you go home and you get sepsis, or you get an infection, and then you have to go back and you're pretty much damaged down there. and you have to get more surgery and more help, which happens a lot. Infection, injury to the cervix and other organs. Abortion can also cause cardiac arrest, respiratory arrest, renal failure, metabolic disorder, shock, and missed ectopic pregnancies, which we'll get into in a minute. One study in South Dakota task force to study abortion concluded that immediate medical complications affect approximately 10% of women undergoing abortions. And just think of how many people are having abortions, so 10% is a lot. And approximately 1/5 of these complications are life-threatening. So I can't tell you how many times we've been out on the sidewalk in front of Planned Parenthood and the ambulance has come and they take out on a stretcher a woman and they cover her face with a towel and she's taken to the hospital for whatever reason, some complication. And just so you know how you have a grade on the restaurants you eat at, A, B, C, D, there's a C on Planned Parenthood. I'm like, why would you go into a clinic, a health clinic that has a C? I don't know. But so I'll get into ectopic pregnancies later on, but that's if you take the abortion pill, which they give out very easily, obviously Biden is pushing for mail order pills. You can just get them on a telecare call with your doctor. You don't even have to be seen anymore, which is crazy because you're only supposed to take the abortion pill right now up till 10 weeks. They're actually trying to change it. We'll talk about that legislation later, back to 6 weeks where it should be, not that it should be anything, but if your baby is, if you don't go to a doctor and you actually have an ectopic pregnancy, does anybody know what that is? It's when the baby attaches to your fallopian tube rather than your uterus, and if that baby is not savable, unfortunately. We don't have the technology yet to remove a baby from the little fetus from your fallopian tube. That baby's gonna die, and if you don't remove that little fetus, you'll probably die. So that's not an abortion. That's a totally different surgery. It's a totally different procedure. It's not an abortion. So people like to say, "Oh, those Republicans, conservatives, they're going to kill women because they're going to refuse them to let ectopic pregnancies get abortions." It's absolutely ridiculous. It's not an abortion. It's a totally laparoscopic surgery where they remove either the whole fallopian tube or the baby. But if you have an ectopic pregnancy and you take the abortion pill, that can kill you. So if you're not seeing a doctor and that doctor is not finding that ectopic pregnancy, and you take the abortion pill, you would probably die. Your fallopian, it'll rupture, and you'll probably bleed to death inside or get sepsis or something. So it's just crazy that they're allowing abortion pills to be pushed because you don't really know. You could be 12 weeks when you think you're 10 weeks, so it's just not. And that's another thing. If the baby's too big, and then you take the abortion pill. What a mess! Oh my gosh! Oh. Can you imagine? So, next slide, please. Abortion puts women at greater risk of long-term and future pregnancy complications. I'm just pointing out these little studies just to back up, what I'm saying. Congressman Donald Norcross, he's a Democrat in New Jersey, wrote in February 2023 that women who had abortions often went on to have a child by choice when they were more financially secure, therefore improving outcomes for the mother and child. Yet, according to research from Charlotte Lozier Institute, analyzing 17 years of comprehensive Medicaid claims data, women whose first pregnancy ends in abortion had an average 53% more miscarriages than women whose first pregnancy resulted in a live birth. Abortion significantly increases risk of mental health problems. Obviously, peer-reviewed research has found increased risk of poor mental health based on an analysis of data from the National Longitudinal Study of Adolescents to Adult Health, finding that each abortion increased the risk of mental health problems by 23%. Okay, next slide. So chemical abortions, that's the abortion pill. So chemical abortions, the abortion pill, are not safer than surgical abortions. Chemical abortions have a complication rate 4 times of surgical abortions, and it's over 50% more likely than surgical abortions to result in an emergency room visit within 30 days. Mifepristone also cannot treat an ectopic pregnancy, which we just discussed, and can mask the symptoms of tubal rupture, which we just talked about, how your fallopian tube can rupture, putting women at risk of severe bleeding and death. Additionally, they create increased risk of forced abortions. So forced abortions meaning, like, since the pill is so easy to get, it's easy to force a girl to get an abortion. Just take this pill. Or the guy could push someone, or your doctor could just kind of persuade you to take this pill, get whatever. It's easy fix. We'll get into that later about some kind of legislation that's happening. I have that written somewhere else. So we can go on to the next slide. So abortion also hurts our communities. So it doesn't just harm mothers and children, it also hurts communities and our society. Next slide. Abortion harms medicine. So abortion creates cognitive dissonance for medical professionals. So people going to the medical field, they think they're going to do all good. They think they're not going to have to cause anybody harm. Providing care based on whether a child is wanted, they're forced to do that, and perverts good medicine. It's telling that most modern versions of the Hippocratic Oath, which some students take upon entering medical school, have been revised to omit the line about abortion. There is perhaps no more fitting example of the way in which abortion has corrupted the medical profession. Abortion undermines the fabric of society. Abortion demands denying the personhood of the preborn child. Denials of personhood to categories of human beings have been used throughout history, we'll know that, to subjugate, oppress, and extinguish groups of people that those in power want to eliminate. History gives us little reason to believe denying personhood to some human beings has even been used to further justice or equality. Instead, in every such instance, it has been used precisely to the opposite way. We know the left likes to twist and bend and flip things upside down, so that's exactly kind of what's happening today. Next slide. So there is help for women. So now more than ever, there is a growing support for women facing unplanned and difficult pregnancies. Next slide. So there is real help. There's more than 2,700 pro-life pregnancy centers in all 50 states. Planned Parenthood has approximately 585 facilities in only 48 states. In 2019, pro-life pregnancy centers served roughly 2 million women, men, and youth, and provided services and support valued at nearly $270 million at little to no cost to clients. Tangible support include medical care, referrals, education, mentoring, and material support, including diapers, car seats, and clothing. Pro-life laws ensure care for life-threatening conditions. So a lot of left-leaning pro-choicers love to say, what about the woman's life? They don't, Republicans don't care about the life of the mother. There's no pro-life law that does not have a clause in it that protects the life of the mother. And I won't get into it all now, but they're really, in this day and age now, there's almost another way always to save the life of a mother, or to at least try to save the life of a mother and put the baby's life at risk without doing an abortion. Do you know what I mean? So there's procedures you can do without physically ripping the baby out of the womb, aborting a baby, or that are more humane if you really need to remove the baby from a mother. But basically there are no, yes.
Yeah, I listened to a very good interview recently, 6 months ago, two OBGYNs practicing 30 years of practice, all kinds of situations, never once did they have to remove the fetus to save the life of the mother.
Right.
That's a mark of a great doctor.
Right.
But in the case that if they are treating the mother and the baby passes away, then that's still not an abortion. Exactly. Yes, I know exactly what interview you're talking about. Yes, I suggest everybody watch them. So every pro-life law, and all the laws have a clause in it. So the doctor can, even if there's a really strict law that's protecting life and people think it's too extreme, there's always some clause that says, well, if the doctor says it's going to affect the woman's mental health or it's going to damage the woman, there's an exception or something. But there's never a law that says you have to bring this child to birth no matter what. There's always some kind of clause on, Anyway, so to claim that the pro-life laws prohibit providing care for these life-threatening conditions risks dangerous confusion and is grossly irresponsible. If a woman's life is in immediate danger, doctors can also administer a preterm delivery instead of terminating the life of the child. Next slide.
Nicole, is that $270 million per year or during the existence of, in the third line? Or
I see it. Line? I believe it's per year because that would be too little to be all,
Thank you.
Yep. Americans agree, protect life. Most Americans want to protect unborn babies from abortion. The left claims Americans support Roe v. Wade, but the legal framework for the case is widely misunderstood. In fact, public sentiment changes dramatically once the facts of the case are broken down. Okay, next slide. 71% of Americans support protections of life after 15 weeks of gestation, protection that Roe prevented states from passing. A Harvard Capps-Harris poll found that a majority of Americans said they either wanted the decision overturned or protections for life to start earlier at 15 weeks. 61% of Americans believe that abortion should either be illegal or left to the states to decide. A plurality of Americans support protections of unborn lives after 6 weeks of life in the womb when a heartbeat can be detected, according to Heritage Action polling. Next slide. So what else can Republicans do to encourage a pro-life vote? Along with boldly speaking truth, educating, and sharing facts on the abortion crisis, we can bring to light the harmful effects of abortion on the woman's mental and physical health, instead of making it a praiseworthy event of getting an abortion. It's almost like we're worshiping abortion now. We're praising it. People are shouting their abortions. They're proud of it. We can really speak the truth about them. Support, promote, and fund more pregnancy centers and pro-life organizations in New York. We can encourage and promote adoption, facilitating the process and providing more resources to adoptive families. So adoption is a beautiful thing. Unfortunately, the process to adopt is very complicated in a lot of places, and that it's also can be, if you go to a private agency, it's very expensive. So if we worked on making the adoption process a little easier and also maybe providing some more resources to adoptive families, we'd be able to protect more babies and encourage women to give their babies up for adoption too. Address cost of living for families and pregnant women in New York. So that's another big thing that politicians probably should address, is the cost of living for people, and for pregnant moms and for families. That's one of the most prominent reasons that women say they're getting abortions is financial reasons. They can't afford, they have too many kids. They don't feel like they can handle another child or a child. Okay, next slide. Next slide again. So what is stirring in New York right now? Well, New York follow Ohio's lead. Does anybody know what happened in Ohio last month? No, November? It's not last month anymore? No? Okay. So, I'll give you a recap. So in November 7th, the 2023 Ohio Reproductive Rights Initiative, officially titled The Right to Reproductive Freedom with Protections for Health and Safety. You gotta love these names. They sound so nice. So just so you know, Ohio had in place what they considered a very strict abortion laws. So unfortunately, the vote on the ballot was issue 1. It was a citizen-initiated constitutional amendment that was adopted on November 7th, 2023, by a majority of 56.8% of voters, which added the right to abortion into the Ohio State Constitution. So now it's embedded, it's like enshrined into the state constitution. So there can no longer be any pullbacks to the right for life. So now babies are going to be able to be murdered without any kind of changes, and they increase the amount of weeks that the baby can be aborted. So it codified abortion rights into the Ohio Constitution, restoring Roe v. Wade era access to Ohio, and protecting the right to abortion up to the point of fetal viability, while permitting abortion even after, if the doctor claims it's justified for whatever reason. So Lila Rose from Live Action, the pro-life organization I was talking about, actually the one that put that video out too that you're talking about, she released the following statement after this was, because it was a very big setback for the pro-life community, that people couldn't believe that Ohio embedded it into their constitution. Of course, what does that mean? New York's coming next, Virginia, it's leading the way now. So we're gonna possibly going backwards. We got Roe v. Wade overturned, now what are we gonna do now? So Lila Rose, the founder and president of Live Action, released the following statement. The truth will ultimately prevail. The truth always trumps temporary political victories. What is truth? Human life begins at the moment of fertilization. Abortion is an act of homicidal violence that kills a living human person. A civilized nation prohibits homicide and should, of course, prohibit abortion. A bedrock of our legal system is the equal protection of our laws for every person, regardless of race, age, location, and social status. That guarantee of equal protection is enshrined in our Constitution's 14th Amendment. It is abhorrent to vote on the basic human rights of the defenseless, unpopular minorities, especially children. In the United States today, preborn children may be the most unpopular minority. So what's coming for New York? Next, I think, actually, sorry, you can go back for 1 second?
Yeah.
Thank you, sorry. So, Ohio issued one, it passed, and now New York lawmakers are asking voters to codify abortion rights in our state constitution. The next decision will be with voters on whether New York will enshrine abortion rights in the state constitution, mimicking Ohio's latest actions. Lawmakers have directed it to be put on the ballot in November 2024, a presidential year in a heavily blue state that would improve its chances of passage. So a quote from Speaker Carl Heastie, Democrat. Here in New York, we will never let the extremist anti-choice agenda to prevent anyone from accessing reproductive health care. He said that near the Capitol with other abortion right activists. New York added stronger abortion rights into state law in 2019 and approved new laws last year to shield providers and patients from out-of-state legislation. But in the wake of Roe v. Wade decision, abortion right advocates and some lawmakers are pushing to enshrine the protections in the Constitution as a way to make it harder to overturn any future legislation. As other states take extreme measures to stymie progress and roll back reproductive rights, New York will always lead the way to combat discrimination in all forms of protect abortion access, says Governor Kathy Hochul. The amendment has cleared the state assembly and state senate twice, and the matter now heads to voters in the state to be on the ballot in 2024. So it's not looking good. The amendment would add to the state's constitution equal protection clause and supposedly protect against discrimination based on a slate of factors, including national origin, age, disability, sexual orientation, and reproductive health care, autonomy, and pregnancy outcomes. So, in other words, they're doing another clause that sounds very nice, equal protection clause, and they clump all these other protections together, and then they throw in reproductive health care, and then they do whatever they want with the reproductive health care issue. So you see, they tend to clump together other discriminations with pregnancy and make protection of life out to be a violation of one's rights and autonomy. But where is the equal protection for the preborn baby in the womb? Meanwhile, thousands of abortions are taking place based on discriminatory factors such as race, gender, disabilities, and genetics, which brings us to the more hypocrisy in the pro-choice arena. Does anybody know who Margaret Sanger is? Yes. Next slide. Yes. So, she was a radical feminist and racist eugenicist. She was a prominent historical figure known for her efforts toward the legalization and widespread usage of contraceptives in America, but her eugenic beliefs found themselves rooted in race, greatly affecting African American populations in America and furthering beliefs that people of color were lesser than or appropriate for being used as test subjects for medical advancements with the scheme she named the Negro Project. Both of these belief systems drove Sanger's fights for widespread, easy access to birth control in America. Until recently, the lucrative Planned Parenthood in New York City, the abortion capital of America, was named and branded after Margaret Sanger on its brick exterior. Right there is where the sign is, that's the center. And it had the name on the street, Margaret Sanger Square, Bleecker Street in Mott. But after all the race chaos and everything and the riots, they figured, wait, we gotta do something about this. It might affect our business. So even the clinic street corner was named after her. But in July 2020, that Planned Parenthood of Greater, it was now it's renamed the Planned Parenthood of Greater New York instead of the Planned Parenthood Margaret Sanger Health Center, announced their intention to rename the Planned Parenthood headquarters on Bleecker Street. This decision was made in response to criticisms over Sanger's promotion of eugenics. In announcing the decision, Karen Seltzer, board of Planned Parenthood, explained, the removal of Margaret Sanger's name from our building is both a necessary and overdue step to reckon with our legacy and acknowledge Planned Parenthood's contributions to historical reproductive harm within communities of color. Ironically, the Bleecker Street Death Clinic is intentionally situated in a minority neighborhood, as is most Planned Parenthoods. And in New York City, more abortions were recorded for black women than live births in both 2012 and 2013. Sanger would refer to minorities and groups she deemed invaluable to society as feeble-minded, and was also known for sharing her beliefs at KKK meetings, and was praised by Adolf Hitler. Writing in 1938, when the Nazi program was in full swing, Sanger urged America to follow Hitler's example. Using the language of social Darwinism, the same language that Hitler uses in Mein Kampf, Sanger wrote, "In animal industry, the poor stock is not allowed to breed. In gardens, the weeds are kept down. America," Sanger concluded, "must learn from the Nazis and carry out nature's own mandate to getting rid of human weeds." Next slide. So, in conclusion, as a democratic republic, we hold in high regard the idea of majority rule. Sovereignty rests in the will of the people as expressed through free and fair elections. But majority rule is only just when the system and the law respect minority human rights. It is a tragedy that people of Ohio and the many states before and to follow them were asked to vote on the legality of discriminately killing a class of persons based on their age. This is a class of persons, our youngest children, who have no vote and cannot advocate for themselves. When under what conditions should the rule of majority be curtailed to protect the rights of minority? The first and most obvious answer is to protect the most fundamental human rights of the minority, most importantly, the right to life. The pro-life movement must adapt to win. We have to throw out the old playbook and dive headfirst into a strategy that can win the hearts and minds of American people and translate into electoral victory. That strategy starts with a fully embracing and educating on the truth. Human life is valuable and must be legally protected. Human life begins at fertilization. Abortion is a murderous act of violence. Embracing the truth with courage is the first step towards the next political victory. Any questions?
I have a question before I have a question. I'll make a statement. I would like to commend you for your courage and integrity in not killing your baby.
Thank you. Oh,
My daughter,
yeah.
my oldest daughter, first time I saw her on a sonogram, she was the size of a grain of rice.
Yeah.
With a beating heart. Many years ago, I had no thought
Right.
of abortion one way or the other. And I saw a documentary called Silent Scream.
Yes. Oh,
Which
you
showed
gotta watch it.
exactly I was appalled
Yeah.
when I saw this. So I think that's could be a useful tool.
Absolutely.
Educate.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And also the movie Unaborted too, but Silent Scream. You guys could it's probably on YouTube. You could YouTube it. Anybody have any other questions or comments?
Well, I just saw another video lecture given by a policewoman who worked down in Texas. At one point, she was not a policewoman anymore, but she said that the sex traffickers told her that if it weren't for Planned Parenthood, they wouldn't be able to reuse these girls.
Right. Absolutely.
So they told her, I mean, they had been arrested, and so I guess they figured there was no point in keeping a secret, and so they said it was really, and now with the abortion pills,
Yep.
they'll force the girls
Yep.
to take the abortion pills over and over and
Yep.
over again.
Yep.
So yeah, he said definitely, if it weren't for that, we couldn't sex traffic these girls.
Yeah, absolutely. They are making it very easy for the sex traffickers. And the Planned Parenthood, they know it. They know it. And they will keep it secret. They will not report it because that is money and it's business and that's all they care about. That's really all they care about. I see women coming in all the time that look, you could tell, you could tell they're being trafficked. Like I said before, the men just drop them off. They wait there. They threaten them. They push them through. They won't look at us when we try to talk to them. It's horrible. They come out. They look really damaged. Yeah.
There seems to be some opinion among some Republicans that politicians and everyone else should just shut up about abortion because they think it's going to hurt their chances of winning. What's the best way to overcome that?
Well, that's a good question. I think number one, I think integrity is the most important part. I mean, I'm unapologetically pro-life, so I would stand for life no matter what. But I think we also need to address other topics that will help women, because we don't want to obviously look because the left will twist everything that we say. So they're just like, oh, you just want women to suffer and have to take care of these babies. You don't care. You're not going to be there for them. You're not going to help them afterwards. You're not going to do anything. But if we have a game plan, and if we make legislation that, like I said, maybe can help with costs, or make some programs, or really, really exemplify that we have options for women, and we are there for women, and we're not there to put women in dangerous situations, and we speak on truth, and we have people that have scientific knowledge and doctors really speak out about these issues. I think when education is brought to the front and people speak with integrity and truth, I think there could be a chance. I mean, if we look at like Trump was, back then, he was unapologetically pro-life, and now he's kind of being a little wishy-washy lately, but people voted for him. That was one of the main things they voted on, like one main vote. That was a big cause, and it is a big cause. It should be one of the biggest cause, because the right to life is the most important value in our world. I mean, it is a spiritual battle. We are in a spiritual battle, and when we kill our preborn children, we are cursing our nation. We are saying that it's okay to murder people, and we're putting it. I mean, if we can go back to slavery, we can go back to killing the Jews, and how we justified it back then, and how people just closed their eyes to it and accepted it and made it okay because for whatever reason. It's the same thing with the preborn. What are we doing? We're killing millions, more than in slavery and in concentration camps, and we're just turning a blind eye, saying, okay, well, at this age it's okay. It's just a clump of cells. But it's an atrocious thing that we are standing here murdering our own children. And yes.
I agree wholeheartedly. More education is what's needed.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The more you can educate your children.
Yes.
And teach them right from wrong. No is an okay word.
Right.
It has to start from a young age.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we're going backwards.
We are. And because even our school systems now are going backwards.
At a young age, that this is acceptable.
Exactly. And they're promoting sex.
Right. And I think that overcomes the battle. I agree with you. I think the more we can educate and give opportunity to women and praise women for being a woman.
Right.
You're lifting them up.
Yep.
You're not
tearing them down. Yeah, I totally agree. Amen.
There's another insidious venue that they're thinking now that they've gotten abortion up until the point of birth. Democrats in state legislature are actually looking to essentially drown organizations like yours in regulation because of things that you need to pay lawyers to do. It's things that they don't have enough resources for. So that's another thing that people should be mindful of. We should talk about as well.
Absolutely.
Making sure we point out that it was never about women's health care.
Nope.
These organizations that provide women's health care, and the Democrats are doing everything they can to actually
curtail it.
apart and just essentially make them collapse.
Absolutely. Just like after Roe v. Wade was overturned, how many pregnancy centers were burnt down and destroyed? And Elizabeth, what's her name? The Democrat from
Warren?
Yes. She made some public statement defund all the pregnancy centers. What is wrong with you? That's what's helping women. That's what's building women up. That's what's saving babies. Why would you want to destroy women and take away their help? So yeah, I totally agree. They're just kind of trying to destroy anything that's going to help or to push women to choose life, or anything that's even going to help to help their babies and help their situations. It's just and people are getting arrested outside clinics. People are getting arrested just for standing outside clinics trying to help mothers. Recently, there's about 5 people in jail right now that are facing up to 11 years in jail just for standing by a clinic trying to help mothers choose life peacefully. They weren't forcing, but they
went in the clinic.
They did.
I will have to qualify.
They did go in the clinic, but they did not.
They were quite aggressive.
But
I know.
it was trespassing because there is the face. There's something called the FACE Act where you can't block an entrance. Yeah. But even so, there was a person that just was charged with running over the Republican person. Remember, they ran over a Republican because they were Republican. They got 5 years in jail. These people go into a abortion clinic. Maybe they They were trying to help. They weren't being anything forceful or put any hands on anybody. They definitely didn't run anybody over. And now they're facing 11 years in jail for trying to save lives. I mean,
That's a lot of your life.
if you're in a room and you know that people are going to be murdered and these babies are going to be torn to pieces in 2 seconds, I mean, they're a little extreme, but I think they don't deserve 11 years in prison because of that. Yeah.
Sorry, ma'am, I just want to say,
Absolutely.
for the presentation, I really love your statistics, and obviously, this is an act that's hell-bent on sadism. You know, it's praise for the devil.
Yep,
It's
absolutely.
completely unholy.
Yep.
And what I want to know is that if this keeps up, will this lead to an American crusades? Will there be a fight against the holy, against the unholy? Because the way I see it, you have a generation completely divided whatsoever.
Yep.
It's downright barbaric, it's unrefined, it's animalistic, and it needs to stop right away. What I want to know, though, is people say, you know, we need to take back the education. How do we take back the education? How do we bring back value conservatism to our young people?
Yeah.
How do we teach young girls and young boys how to be a man, how to be a woman
Right.
in society? How do we do this? We say, but we don't do.
Right.
We don't have
Yeah.
the violence that they had the violence.
Right.
We bring back the violence, and we need to bring it back now.
We need to get a pair of, yeah. I agree. And I think Republicans are a little soft. The left and the Democrats and the far left will do anything. They will go to the extreme to prove their agenda, to accomplish what they want to accomplish, no matter what. We need to be a little bit more like them.